Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Mondays with Michelle video. Newspapers are a rich source of information, helping us better understand our ancestors' lives. This week, we'll look at a number of websites offering free access to digitized newspapers. Let's get started. What I thought I would talk about this week is newspapers, because I know all of you have heard me mention just how much information I've been able to find and interesting stories coming up by looking at newspapers. And what I wanted to focus on this week is the free newspapers that are out there, because I think most people are familiar certainly with the two major paid sites, newspapers.com and British Newspaper Archives. I wanted to show you some of the different sites that you might not be familiar with where you can access things for free. So I am going to touch on some of the major subscription sites because they do have free offerings. So the first one I want to talk about is British Newspaper Archives. Now, you can set up an account on here. You can register an account, but in addition to the usual trial memberships that all of these websites have, you may not be aware, but they do have free pages. So if we look down at access type, free to view, and I'm just going to click search, there are all of these newspapers available for free, and there is an alphabetical list that I'll show you elsewhere. So if I was to type and search on my Renton ancestors, you can see this is the number of articles for each of these year ranges that meets my search category. It's going to show me the newspapers that have entries in them, so I can filter on any of this information. So my purpose in showing you this is that even if you don't have a paid subscription for British Newspaper Archives, it's worth setting up a free account and looking at what they have freely available. Because I have a paid subscription, my search results are actually split between the items that are free to view. So if you notice, there are 19,779 items in the free to view section and a much larger number in the subscription access. So if I want to now limit just to the free to view to simulate what you would see if you were logged in without a subscription, I'm just going to click the free to view. And you notice it is now changed. If I scroll back down, all it is showing me are these 19,779 entries. We are not seeing the subscriber portion. And if we take a look at their blog, and I will have links to all of these sites in the handout. So if we scroll down through this detailed blog, at the very bottom, you have a list of all of the newspapers. It says, here's a full list of all the titles and year ranges that form part of the 2022 free to view release. And their goal is to digitize another 5 million pages over the next 5 years and make them free to view. So you can expect more and more to be added to the list. But as you can see, there are lots of titles. And although the coverage is primarily British papers, they do have one paper from India and a paper from Jamaica that they've added to their free to view list. So that's an interesting option. Because Find My Past has all of the British newspaper archives collection as part of some of their subscription offerings, they have the same set of free to view pages. So if you happen to have a Find My Past account number, even if you don't have a subscription, you can view those same titles for free through Find My Past. So it's just a slightly different search interface, that's all. And I'll have the link to their blog page that talks about that. So while we're dealing with the major websites, those of you who have Ancestry subscriptions, be aware if you do a catalog search, a card catalog search, and type in newspapers.com, what you will see is collections, indexed collections of marriages and obituaries. They do not seem to have an indexed collection for birth announcements, but they have got indexes to marriages and obituaries from newspapers.com. Now, if we click on one of these, and if I type in Renton, and if I now click on view the record for one of these, what you are getting is the transcription of the key fields that have been indexed. You have to have a subscription to newspapers.com to view the original article. And something to bear in mind, newspapers.com, and I'll just show you that now. There are several types of subscriptions. What Ancestry defaults to with the subscription level that they bundle with most of their offerings is this newspapers.com basic subscription. If you subscribe to newspapers.com separately, you might have their Access Everything subscription. So just be aware, you might be in the situation where even if you have the basic subscription, you may click on an item in that Ancestry collection and it might be telling you you cannot view the image because it might be part of their Access Everything subscription. So that's just something to keep in mind. The only reason, as I said, I wanted to show you the Ancestry information because if you do have a subscription, you do have access to the indexed information. You just may not be able to see the actual image depending on your subscription level. Let's take a look at what Family Search has to offer. So I went into Search the Catalog and looked at newspapers as a subject heading. And as you can see, we have everything from American newspapers to Argentina, Australia. I'll just scroll down. There's lots of entries for Canada, England, Germany, Netherlands, Japan. So it is worth looking to see what Family Search offers. Now, I also did a keyword search with newspapers. There are 16,765 results. Now, a lot of these are not going to be available online. Some of these may be extracts that are published in book form. Some of them may be film that would have to be viewed at their physical library, or you could request a record lookup. But one of the things that can be helpful by looking through the card catalog or the catalog listings is it will give you more leads to what newspapers existed. What are the possibilities where you may find your ancestors? So look at it as a starting point. And to give you an idea, one of the entries I looked up was Newcastle newspapers. And if I click on this item, I'm brought to the detail screen, and you'll notice it's a camera with a key, which normally means I'm not going to be able to view it. There are restrictions. And when I did click on the camera, sure enough, it said you have to be at an affiliate or family history library to view it. But the magnifying glass means they do have an index. So if I click the magnifying glass, it will bring me in to this record search screen, and I could type in Renton, and well, Randon, close enough. Let's say this was the person I was looking for. If I click the document, it's showing me that transcript of the fields that have been indexed, but most importantly, it's giving me this information here. This is the actual link to that digitized article. So I could now do a record lookup, an online record lookup request, give Family Search this link along with the name of the collection, the other details, and request a copy of that article. And as long as there were no licensing issues, because this is a collection that the British Library owns, that Family Search has made an arrangement to index and film the information, they should be able to then email me the article. So it's worthwhile looking to see what Family Search offers, especially if you're going to use the online lookup request in conjunction. So we've talked about the three major websites: Find My Past, Ancestry, Family Search. We've talked about newspapers.com and British Newspaper Archives. So let's talk for a moment about where else you can find links to newspaper sources. And one of them is the Family Search Research Wiki. I literally went to the Research Wiki by doing search Research Wiki and typed in the word newspapers and came to this page. So you'll notice there are a lot of links to websites that have newspapers, and I will be showing you some of those. So always look for those other sources that will give you more links. So the Family Search Wiki is one. Wikipedia is another one. Again, I went to Wikipedia and typed in newspapers, and you notice the country links here. We've got Argentina, we've got Austria, Bangladesh. There's a lot for Canada, for the different provinces. We've got links for Germany. So those of you who are doing international research, looking at some of these general pages, both on Family Search Wiki, on Wikipedia, will give you a good starting point so that you at least can get some idea of the major sources available. Cindy's List is another website that is rich in links. Now, what I will say is her newspapers page is basically split alphabetically. The one thing I found, it is not necessarily going to be easy to see what is available at a glance, because the alphabetic division could be country, could be province or city, could be the physical name of a newspaper. So we have everything from Saskatoon Newspaper Index to Scotsman Digital Archive. This is Swedish newspapers. You can find the Telegraph Journal. This is under S because it's St. John edition. So you have to get a bit creative when you are looking for information on the Cindy's List site, but there are tons of links to newspapers. So that's another good one. Just be prepared to spend a bit of time hunting through. The National Archives also has some guides for newspapers and links to different online collections. And the more you look at multiple sites, the more you'll start to recognize the names of some of the collections. So a lot of the online newspaper websites have a built-in link to Australia's Trove website, which is their way of making the newspapers available online. This 17th and 18th century Burney collection is one that is featured on a number of different online websites. Welsh newspapers online. Again, you will find links to those websites from a lot of different places. So let's take a look at some of these other online websites that you may not be as familiar with. There's a site called Elefind, and it does have the link to Trove, the Australia website. It's got some Mexico, it's got some New Zealand. It does have quite a bit for the United States, but it is selective. So what they have done is they have linked in to different collections. So for instance, they are linking in to the US Library of Congress Chronicling America collection. They have linked into collections on Hawaiian newspapers, Illinois, Indiana, Colorado. So you will have certain collections that have a lot of depth for newspapers in that particular state, but it is by no means even coverage for all 50 states. So you have to take a look at the particular collection and the coverage. So for instance, this is the Hudson River Valley Heritage historical newspaper, and it gives you the alphabetic list. So the nice thing is for the Elefind website, it does tell you how many issues, how many newspapers are in that particular entry, the number of items, the date of the earliest, and the date of the latest. So you get some idea of date range. So that's the Elefind site. The next one I wanted to show you is the Internet Archive. So I literally went to Internet Archived and typed in newspapers and clicked go. And you can see we have clickable links to newspapers from all over. We have Italian newspapers, Ottawa, Connecticut. So again, this is a case of you can use the links on the left. You can scroll through all of these different icons to get access to more information. You can also filter by date. And the reality is, since a lot of times we're interested in the older historical newspapers, clicking on the date range can be really helpful. So if I go to the last page here, we've got information all the way back to 1359. Remember, some of these newspapers, their date system is different from what we use. So if I was to select, for instance, 1791 and 1797 and apply my filters, and it's thinking, and then I will see just the items that apply to that date range. So it looks like there's a number of Kentucky papers. So you can filter the information in multiple ways. The next one I wanted to show you, Google had a special project to digitize newspapers. Unfortunately, they didn't continue the project all the way through, but their goal was to digitize North American newspapers. And as you can see, I'll just scroll down. It is an extensive list. So again, this is all alphabetical. There's going to be a lot of American newspapers. There's also quite a few Canadian newspapers in here. And these are clickable links to digitized images of those papers. And this is all free. Another website that is focused on American papers, it's called Small Town Papers, and it is exactly that, those little community newspapers. And they show a list here broken down by state. So you may find that some of the newspapers for those small towns that are not covered on some of the other major websites might be in here. So that's another good resource. Now, one of the other resources to look at is universities and libraries, and this is a prime example. So the National Library of Wales has all kinds of newspapers digitized and freely available online. So this is their portion of the website for Welsh newspapers. So again, I just typed in Renton, and these are all the results that I can then click on and view. Similarly, University of British Columbia has all kinds of historical newspapers. So we've got the British Columbia options. I can look at options for Canada, for the US, but the historical newspapers, that's the collection I'm interested in. And I've already got that link up here. So the nice thing is I could search, I could select a particular newspaper and go in and explore those issues. So I could say, yep, this is the issue I want. There are the images. I can browse the images, or I can search either inside that particular image or from the previous pages. I could search across the entire collection. So again, this is an example of some of the newspapers that have been digitized and that are freely available through universities. Simon Fraser University, one of the other major universities in British Columbia, has done something similar. And these are all the newspapers that they offer that are focused in British Columbia. So the last link I'm going to show you is, don't forget that some newspapers have chosen to make their archives available on their own website. So you have newspapers like the Gazette. And if you go to the Gazette website, they have this search the archives. And if I type in Renton and click search the archives, I am looking at their historical information. And just scrolling through, you can see we've got entries from 1856, 1894. It is not just current information. And what the Gazette is great for, any of your ancestors who went bankrupt or who were in business, those transactions, starting up companies, closing down companies, partnership changes, bankruptcies, that would all be reported in the London Gazette. That's how I found the entry for my ancestor who went bankrupt and was in fact thrown into debtor's prison. It says here he was in York Castle prison. So that gave me clues to pursue a whole other set of records. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Don't forget to download the handout. You'll find the link in the video description at the bottom of your screen. You may need to click more to see the handout links. Thanks for watching.